Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Nap Bros podcast. I am joined by my lovely co-host, my brother Andrew. Today we are going to be discussing time as the fleeting resource that it is, and we are going to kind of like be discussing. First, we're going to be discussing craziness in our lives that affect our time, and then also be discussing tips on how to get better. Tips that I stole from another YouTuber, and just kind of like discuss our own like actual ways of possibly doing these tips and paying attention to these tips. Andrew, without any further ado, do you want to tell them how many and what and all that fun stuff you have on your plate, just without names?
Well, let's see. Things I do on a daily basis. So, of course, family time, work. Started another business. Kids' special activities.
Mm-hmm.
Putting the kids to bed. Housework. Podcast. Gym that I never go to.
I don't think that counts. I think that doesn't count if you don't do it.
It's the thought that counts. Isn't that what they say?
not in this case. No. I'm pretty sure that's in the whole thoughts and prayers kind of thing. It's the thought that counts.
Of course, you got 8 hours a day you're working. If you have a
Mhm.
job, some people work more than that.
Well,
Come
plus
home,
you
do
got the
some
commute too,
housework.
right?
Yeah, about an hour and a half commute there and
Yeah.
back again,
Yep.
which is a hobbit's tale. I don't know if you know that or not.
So for me, like my time commitments are more like family time, but definitely not. It's just more like time with the wife. But then, especially during the summer, it's much more like now that I have school that I have to like do homework and stuff for. So that's taking up some time. The podcast, and that's kind of it.
Mm,
There's not really anything else per se. I kind of am needing to my uh, fill up my
schedule.
time. Yeah, fill up my schedule more because there are things that I need to get done when the semester starts. Like that's going to be the interesting thing because I'll be working at the school, going to school and learning, doing homework and all that jazz, fantasy football, and just paying attention to football. Period. Spending time with my wife, and then even like to an extent, maybe like going and working out. Well, and the podcast too. So that's
I did all those things minus the podcast or working out. One of those two was not there at one point in time. I hate to like just throw you under the bus right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that right
go
this
ahead.
second. I think you should have a plan of action. Like since, and I'm not saying like I wouldn't want to be along with your dream, but since your dream is to have a very successful podcast, then you should have it laid out what you want to talk about every single week, and Andrew just needs to be there at 100% of the time. You know,
So that way you don't have to do anything at all except just be.
listen, you're not wrong.
But that is true. I
can
do
do
have
research.
more time than you.
I can do
for sure.
research.
You,
if you
boy,
give me
you were supposed to do. So let's go with this.
no no
Let's
no
put
no
this
no
out there on the
no
podcast.
no no no
What
no
research did you do for this podcast specifically? This episode.
I was one that came up with the idea.
You can. That's like sitting there saying like, okay, guys, we need to figure out a way to have clean energy. Okay,
Have you
that's
have
my
you ever
idea.
heard have you ever heard of the Eisenhower Matrix?
Eisenhower Matrix. I have not. What is the Eisenhower Matrix?
So the matrix is, you have four quadrants that you separate things into. You have urgent and important, not
Not
urgent,
urgent and important. Not
right?
important and urgent, and then not important, not urgent.
So you're in that bottom left box. That's what I did just then.
Delegate.
There you go.
So our podcast is urgent but not important. That's good to know.
No, no, no,
I
no, no.
see. That's
It just
exactly
means
what
I
you
don't have
said.
to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's
I
true. That's true.
delegated it to you.
No.
So,
So the Eisenhower Matrix is really good for like prioritizing, which is we'll probably actually just get into that and just talk about like one of the tips for time management is prioritizing. So with the Eisenhower Matrix, you can prioritize. You can figure out if you need to do it now. If you like, if it's not urgent but it is important, you can schedule it. If it's not important but it is urgent, then you can delegate it, get somebody else to do it. And then if it's not urgent and not important, then you can delete it. But you're kind of talking about priorities there to an extent, in that you have to figure out what your priorities are. And so um, I'll give you my priorities. I'll give you the priorities that I've got, and then that hopefully that'll give you time to think about your priorities, what you think, Andrew, as far as what your priorities are. Just
I just wing it.
you just
Maybe
wing it.
that's what
That's
it
see
is.
that's rule number one about time management is you've got to have priorities. If you
Well,
don't have priorities,
I mean, hear me out. So from where I was a year ago or 2 years ago with having to be in college, work, family time, homework, you know, if I went to the gym, if we had a podcast, kids games, stuff like that, like yes, 100%. I mean, I had a schedule laid out to where I needed to be and what I needed to be doing for
mm-hmm.
those hours, you know. So, and I mean, you remember how it was. I don't remember if I showed you the schedule or not, but it was literally from 4 a.m. till midnight. I had something planned at all times. You know,
You gotta have sleep though.
I even planned out my family time or my extracurricular time, if you know what I mean. You know.
Yeah. Yes, I do know what you mean. The thing is like so, but
So, but
with
what I'm saying
good.
is going from that to where, I've reached somewhat of my goals at the time is what my goals were. So it's like, yeah, I've done cut it back a lot because now I can kind of relax. Yes, I still got my foot on the gas, but I'm not, going 150 miles per hour.
Well, the thing is like because I'm not. But the thing is, like, it doesn't say prioritize, because when we're talking about prioritizing, we're talking about prioritizing like what your priorities are now. If you're saying, because like right now, what it sounds like you're saying is you don't have any priorities. Period. Like there's nothing that like takes precedence over other things. Like, and so because the thing is like too, like you say that you completed a goal, which is you got your degree in engineering. Cool, great, awesome, got that done, check. But that doesn't mean that there's not like another priority that you can always adjust your priorities. But like that's the thing is if you don't prioritize something, then you're not able to have time. And that's kind of one of the things. I mean, that's the reason why we're doing today's episode, is because you say that you don't have time for it.
I feel like
Not
you
just for
said
the
it.
episode, but just
Well,
period.
I feel like you said it differently. Like, yeah, I understand prioritizing your responsibilities, but the way you said it, you made it sound like, you know, you're trying to figure out what your priorities are. Like, no, I mean, I do kind of wing it, but at the same time, like, I know my priorities is my family and then my job, and then, maybe family, business, then job, but I don't know. I guess I was thinking of it a different way. 100%.
But I mean, like the thing is like so with priorities. So the way that I see it is like you in all honesty, you choose your priorities. Now, granted, when you have a family, like that's your choice to have a family. Once you have a family, then that family needs to take priority. Like that you have to prioritize your family in your timing. The same with a job, like whatever job you end up having, like you've got to prioritize that. The business you start, you got to prioritize that. If you want to lose weight, you got to prioritize that. If you want to do the podcast, you got to prioritize that. If you want to do fantasy football, you got to prioritize it. Like all these different things that we've got all of them kind of need to be. You've got to figure out like what's going to be like number one, what's going to be number two, three, four, five, six, and like figure out because like right now, like one of the things that like my wife wants to do is she wants to play piano, but we don't really have time for that. She doesn't really have time for that right now in her schedule to be able to do that. Like right now, like her schedule is pretty packed. With me, the same thing. I want to learn guitar, but wanting to learn how to play guitar doesn't really fit into my schedule as of yet because I've got all these other priorities that come in front of it. Now, if I can have some free time, like it's going to be like number 6 or number 7 on the list of things that I've got to get done, things I've got to do. But that's the thing is like I've got to choose what my priorities are. So like my schooling is a priority. My time with my wife is a priority. My getting ready for the next semester is a priority. Even exercising and working out and food kind of like all listed as a priority, like making sure that I'm eating the right stuff. Those 4 things and the podcast, I forgot about that. Those 5 things take up a good amount of time, and those are the things that I need to dedicate my life to and my priorities to. And then I can start figuring out where they fit into my schedule. And so the other thing that kind of leads into is time tracking, like tracking your time, and just kind of like seeing how your day goes, like seeing what time it starts, what you do during the day, and just keeping track of that. One like I guess there are different apps out there that you can use, and the thing is like this is something that you can do at least to begin with for like a week or two, just kind of see where your time is devoted to. And like I know for me, my time would be devoted. Like there are plenty of times where my time would be devoted to social media or wasting time or like watching TV or watching movies or something like that. That doesn't really like it'd be one thing if I were like watching a movie to create a podcast about that movie or a TV show to create a podcast about that TV show, and I want to, but I'm not doing that. Even to that extent, like watching YouTube videos, I need to be doing that in order to learn how to get better at podcasting, but I'm not even doing that. I'm just kind of like watching whatever.
YouTube. Yeah. So, well, for me, I'm not gonna lie. Like when I'm at work, I pretty much am work only because like I honestly get so caught up in what I'm doing. Like I tend to not even check my phone. I tend to not even like go to break. You know, if there wasn't somebody there like, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee, you know, I probably wouldn't even get up and go get a cup of coffee at the time.
Yeah.
So that kind of focus is good. Honestly, with the business, I spend, let's say, 3 hours on the road, maybe 4 every weekend,
Mm-hmm.
picking up and dropping off. And so, like, there's a lot of drive time, but it's really, busy doing something, it can't be avoided. Maybe I could be listening to a podcast, but half the time that I take that as spending time with some of the kids too. I take the kids with me. Have a little bit of bonding, if you want to call it that, more or less to get them out of the house.
Yeah.
Um, oh no, between that and like, I guess I spend most of the weekends with the kids, try to at least, because by the time I get home, dinner's cooked. I don't know, we might lay down and watch a show together. We were watching Loki tonight, and I put on a scary movie. They like watching scary movies. I put on scary movies for them. They're still awake now, I think, because they don't listen very well.
Scary movie was too good. It did
Well,
its
that's
job.
the other thing. Is like it's like we didn't sign them up for sports this past spring and fall, summer. So, like, could you imagine how much more busy I would have been if we had done sports?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like, man, it was a nice reprieve, even though I stayed busy the entire time. Like, it was nice not having to go to sports, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know, but for
Yeah.
me, priority is like, when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, usually I'm spending time with the kids. We did projects this past weekend, cleaning out bedrooms and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, I guess I focus on the things I have to focus on while I'm doing them, I guess, if that makes sense. Social
It
media is
does.
not really. I usually come home and my phones go straight to the kids anyway, so.
Yeah, I think for me, as far as like social media, definitely kills me. Like I literally will put my
You
phone
two
on a sleep mode.
specifically?
Yeah, I'll put my phone on like sleep mode to where I can't get disturbed at all. Like no notifications, no nothing. Just nothing comes through if I'm like pounding away at something. Another thing that's interesting is that the guy brings up is he says you've got to batch your tasks, meaning you've got like certain tasks that you can do together, like do them together. So like for instance, like yesterday for um, my wife and I, we went out and basically we there were things that we needed to buy at a store, and so we went out and we were like, okay, we're gonna go buy these things at a store. We're gonna go walk the dog, and we're gonna go grab some food, like go grab dinner or something like that. And so we kind of like in essence threw those three things together in order to make sure that when we were out, we were out. Like even to an extent, like throwing away the trash at the same time, like doing all like batching those together. Um, with that being the case, even like there's gonna be I've got to record a video for my homework. So once I get done, like here, I'll be working on recording that video. Actually, I've got to do some research on it first. Actually, and what I should have done is I should have researched time management and researched stuff for my homework at the same time, because that's kind of that idea of batching the tasks together in order to not be going back and forth. Where like you research, record, and then oh crap, I got to go back and research again, and oh crap, I got to go back and re-record. So for me, like having that kind of idea where no, I'm gonna be like recording, and then when I go to edit this podcast, I'll also be editing that video at the same time, or not at the same time, but I'll do them together. That way, I'm all in that editing mode and stuff like that.
I don't know that I agree with the batching. I
Okay.
understand what you're saying, like you're combining things together, so to speak. So batching. So
Yeah.
and this is strictly from like a manufacturing standpoint, working in a factory, whatever. So when you batch things, you focus on one task, one step in a task. And I think that's just my concept of it. Whereas like if you did a whole task throughout, then it's different. So I think it's kind of different. Like I get what you're saying. So like you take the trash out, and then hold up, I'm not opening here. You take the trash out, but at the same time, you get the mail and you
Hmm.
do this. So that's what you mean about batching.
Yeah.
I don't think that's batching so much as that's planning your I don't know trip, so to speak. But you know, I think that's more of like a block kind of scheduling. You know what I mean? Like you have everything laid out. Like I'm gonna do this, and this, and I wouldn't call it a batch. I was just saying like I just know that I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna knock all these things out while I'm out. You know what I mean? Planning
Well,
ahead,
but
I guess.
that's that idea. Is like if you're gonna go out, make sure that you only have to go out like one time. Do everything you need to do, run all your errands at that one time, and then no, that's not to say like every once in a while something may pop up that you didn't realize. But yeah, it's kind of like that whole like throw it all together. If you're going out on errands, go out, do the errands, do everything that you need to do out. Like if you need to go to the bank, if you need to go to the grocery store, if you need to go to, to pick up the kids, do all these, whatever they are, go and do them all at one time.
Right,
As
I
where,
get that. Yeah,
yeah, like because I would even say so. Like for instance, like let's take it from the podcast standpoint. On the one hand, you have like research that needs to be done, like go and look up what this is, or go and find this information, or go and get some information that you're going to talk about, right?
right,
Then you have recording, okay? And so then when you record, then that's a separate thing, and then I have editing, right? And then that's a completely separate thing as well. So the idea is that like whenever I'm doing research for the podcast, whatever that is, whether it's like maybe I need to do, and like even now, like I'm thinking like I need to schedule different topics that we're going to talk about, and then go and research all of those topics at one time. That way, I've got notes for each of them, and then when we record, then we can record and have multiple recordings all at one time, and then later on, I can edit it all together. So that way, like, so all of our recordings could be done together when we have a time. For me, with the school, like, I should have done research on like the homework that I need to do, and then next, after we get off of this, I would have recorded myself again doing a video here, and
Yes.
then what I will do is when I'm done with everything, I will edit together. I will be editing this podcast, and as soon as I'm done editing the podcast, I'll edit my homework.
The things I've always done was, we've talked about it. I had the time block. They call it time blocking method. You set up, you know, time blocks. Every 30 minutes is what you need to be doing, or every hour you need to be doing this. So you just
Right.
divide your entire day out, basically.
Okay.
They say inventor Elon Musk is known for this technique too, and it's like, oh, well, I didn't even know that. But for me personally, it worked great for school, as in a sense of like, 4 a.m. I'm up, I'm driving to work, be at work by like 4:45, working till 9, then 9:30 I'm at school, leaving like a 30-minute gap or whatever as far as travel time. So that being said, it was always someplace I need to be, and I started doing that like when I started going to school full time, so it was like, not while I was doing like, what was I was doing? I wouldn't say part time, but when I was in technical college, I only took like 2 classes. But when I went full time, like 4 classes, 5 classes, I was like, there's no way I can get it all done without having some system. So that was my first method. What I tend to do now, like work for sure, is I have a notepad and I'll write down tasks that I need to get done for that day. Or get done in a specific order. So like, I'll get this, and this done, put check marks beside it. But then I know the next day I still have these 2 things I need to get done. And so like at the end of the day, especially if I'm thinking about it and I don't lose track of time, I'll write out my next day's schedule, and I'll be like, okay, this is what I know I need to do. So something else I've read about was, I don't know, have you ever heard of Parkinson's law?
Parkinson's law? For Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, Parkinson's law. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you've heard that, haven't you?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, so 100%. If I have till midnight to get something done, it is getting done from 10 to midnight.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like so even going, if we're gonna go into that, like there was another tip that the guy said, and he said use deadlines, but like in this particular case, because the problem in the reason why Parkinson's law is such a pain in the butt, and it's so true, is because especially if you don't have a deadline. You and I technically do not have a deadline for this podcast. Like it's really up to whenever, like if we wanted to, like there's no business that's telling us we're going to pay you money if you get this podcast out in this time. We're just like, well, we're going to do it. For me, I'm like, I want to make sure like I have to set my own deadline on it. But even then, instead of working on it, like for instance, what I can do is go record my homework today, and then edit this podcast and edit my homework today. Get it done. Be done with it. But more than likely what will happen is I'll wait until Friday, and I'll be like, oh, it's Friday. Oh, crap. I got to like do homework, and I've got to edit, and I've got to do da-da-da-da-da-da. And so that's kind of that idea is like using deadlines, but like actually like having your own deadlines, especially if you don't actually, like I don't have a deadline necessarily for creating a curriculum for my students in the coming semester. I don't have a deadline for that, but I have to force myself to do the deadline so that I can actually get it done.
So I really hate starting and stopping. Like so if I start a design job or I start doing something and then I have to put it down
Mm-hmm.
to pick that job back up, so to speak, and have to start on it all over again. It's almost like you have to restart all over from the beginning because you just gotta rethink about what I did. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? So for me personally, I'll sit down at work and I'll spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours on the same job because I do not want to come back to this job. I know if I have to come back to this job, how much it will suck. And even so, like even after I get done with what I'm doing, I send out my design for approval. When they bring it back to me and they're like, "Hey, it's good to go. Go ahead and take care of this." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do that right now. I don't really want to work on that right now. Like, I really don't want to like take it and do whatever else I need to do to it because like, oh, it's just too much work." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that's interesting. There's actually people who do actually talk about that and say like when you sit down and you're actually working on something, that's one of the reasons to like shut off your phone and like make sure you're not getting distracted by anything because when you're in it, and like you're like your brain's just like working stuff out. But if you have to stop it and then go do something else and then have to come back to it, it takes some time. I think they say like it could take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I think depending on how difficult the thing that you're working on, the project is, it could take longer to get that thing started. And so, yeah, that's one of the things. Is like normally, because I'll even say this: when I first started editing, like it would take me about 2 hours to edit a podcast, and I'm like, man, I like, and I'm just like, I got to be there because yeah, if I step away and then I come back, then I'm like, crap, how was I doing this? Like, what was going on? What was I doing? And so, even to that extent, like I'm needing to prepare for that. The last thing that he says, the last tip that he presents, that I think is also a good one, is learn to say no.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
like I think one of the cool things about this is, so for me, so there's something coming down the pike. Here in Shanghai, they're doing a 48, what's called a 48-hour movie or 48-hour film. And one of the things that like I'm really excited about is like being able to act in that. But this is something that I could easily say no to because it's going to take up a whole weekend of my time to do all of this. Like starting on a Friday night, going into Sunday night, and I could say no to this, but I feel like this is one of those things that I feel like this would be like a once in a lifetime kind of thing, being able to go and do some acting. Not a once in a lifetime thing, but like one thing that I would like to do, like to be able to get my acting chops kind of like back up to par and just kind of enjoy it and stuff like that. And so even to that extent, I'm like, okay, like I want to do that. I've already said yes to that. And so
But now
just
you're gonna go back
be
on it and not do it because you say no.
no. I'll still do it because I'm like, this is. But I'll say no to other things. Like for instance, so I'm going to tell the football people like, hey, I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. Love you, love coaching, but I can't do it anymore. I just don't have the time. The other thing too is there are clubs that I host, and I may be able to host them online, but I won't be able to do anything offline at all, just because it just takes too much time to get there and too much time to come back. If I could do it online, great. If I can't do it online, then I'm like, I can't do it.
I mean,
Um,
you could give up Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure that give you plenty of
I've
time.
already given that up.
What?
Yeah. Like you said, I don't have the time. I mean, like that's a no. At least for the next year, because here's the thing, and I'll tell you this. Here's the thing. This is going back to priorities. This is why saying no is important. Going back to those ideas of priorities, on the one hand, you have to prioritize what's important. Work is important because that's what pays the bills. Going to my school is important, or going and learning is important because that'll help to create more business, more professional development. Spending time with my wife, also important. No,
You know.
uh, and then doing the podcast and doing American football are also priorities for me, and even working out. And so what that does is that limits how much time I've got to do other things. And but these are my priorities. These are the things that I I am saying yes to, and so I have to say no to all those other things.
Like butter spread over too much bread, you know?
Mm. Why are we doing all the Hobbit stuff again? Why are you busting out all the Lord of the Rings stuff, man? What if we do that? I'm just kind of like a little aside. What if like every single time we like get on, we bust out like a different movie, like movie quotes from that movie, and just
I mean,
try and see
I'm
if we,
there. I'm there
dude,
for you, sir.
dude,
I'm
let's
there.
do that. I'm now I'm 100% on board with this idea.
You know, honestly, there was this other one I saw. I like this other
Yeah,
one. I haven't tried it. Maybe I'll try this one. The Pomodoro Technique. It's
dude,
always
I will
retarded
swear by
names.
that. I will swear by the Pomodoro technique. The thing about the Pomodoro technique that is important, because this is good. You work for 25 to 30 minutes just straight, no interruptions, no nothing, and then you take like a 5 minute break because what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to refresh you, and this could be work, it could be study, it could be anything, but you take that 25-30 minutes, and then you take a 5 minute break, come back, do 25-30 minutes, take a 5 minute break, and then I think every hour or every 2 hours you take like a 10 minute break, something
Yeah.
something longer. Do you think the Pomodoro effect will or Pomodoro timer will help you
Well, that
get
was what I
that?
was. That was my point. I was getting to was like, I. So let's say I go to work. I have a 30-minute meeting. After that, I don't stop until like 9:30, 10 o'clock when like I realize I'm either out of coffee or I have to use the bathroom really bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are what knock me out of my little days, and then I go do that, come back and do it all over again until lunchtime. So it's like no, like I don't know that I could necessarily do 25 minutes and take a 2 minute break because then I'd be like I'd feel like I'd never get anything done.
Mm. I don't. The thing is like I wonder if you could do like I would just say just give it a shot, just try it and see because the reason why this is done is because they say that like the attention span of a human is like that 30 minutes, like when you're most, I guess you could say, creative or most like involved, is like 25 to 30 minutes, and then what'll happen is when you take that 2 to 5 minute break, you come back and you're just like kind of like reinvigorated and ready to like get back into it. Or like it's not saying like take that 5 minute break, stand up, go chat with Joe or go work on something else. It's actually like saying like maybe get up, go grab a cup of coffee, come back, get back on it. Like just a small break, like not anything too intense. And again, this is just coming from me where like I used it to study, I've used it to get work done. Like I've loved it when I've done it. Even to an extent, like I haven't done it when I've done editing on podcasts and stuff like that. But that's something that I'm gonna try and do is try and get into this idea. Like even doing research, like when I'm doing the research, like I'm gonna time myself and say, okay, here's 25 minutes or 30 minutes. I'm gonna research all this stuff and then get up and take a break, come back, get back on it and stuff like that.
I might try it tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping in and taking the time to be here. We do appreciate it. We would love more than anything if you guys enjoyed this episode. We would love for you to subscribe. We would love for you to leave a review if you're on your podcasting app. If you're on YouTube, we want you to hit that like button, leave a comment below. Tell us some time management tips that you use that seem to work really well. We would love to hear from you. My name's Nick.
I'm Andrew.
And as always,
You have an open invitation to our conversation.
did you
But more
forget?
importantly, no.
Did you forget the punchline?
I was thinking, all we have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to us.
You are ridiculous. Bye!